Ever wonder how a single, simple ingredient can keep meat fresh for over 2 decades without modern technology? In this video, we'll uncover a time-tested Amish technique that relies on pure salt and a patient process, transforming raw cuts into flavorful, shelf-stable provisions that stand the test of time. Let's step into an off-grid world where old methods quietly outperform modern machines. No electricity required. Number 1. Cultural roots and traditional foundations. The Amish communities draw upon centuries-old traditions that trace back to rural European methods, ensuring that their meat preservation skills remain embedded in a heritage of meticulous care, resourcefulness, and minimalism. Unlike modern preservation practices that rely on refrigeration or chemical preservatives, Amish techniques emphasize absolute purity and stability over time. Their approach stems from religious values of self-sufficiency, eschewing external energy sources, and leaning on the wisdom of ancestors who perfected these methods long before electricity. Oral teaching remains central. Elders tutor younger generations by demonstrating how precise salt application and patient waiting can yield results that last not just months, but multiple decades. These methods resemble ancient European and Near Eastern curing strategies, once essential for ensuring sustenance through harsh winters, lean harvests, and unexpected disasters. Over centuries of adaptation to North American climates, the Amish have honed these approaches, selecting storage areas like root cellars or spring houses that naturally regulate temperature and humidity without mechanical input. In contrast to industrial techniques involving nitrates, sugars, or complex spice blends, Amish solutions focus on a singular key ingredient, pure, unadulterated salt sourced from reliable deposits. They trust this core element to maintain safety and flavor, relying on salt's inherent antimicrobial properties. Social interaction also contributes. Community gatherings often include discussions on how weather affected recent batches, how the thickness of certain cuts influences aging, and how to adjust timing in variable climates. This shared knowledge ensures continuity and refinement. Each family might have subtle differences in technique, such as layering patterns or the order of salting and hanging, but all follow a broad, proven template. Such communal memory prevents knowledge erosion in an era where globalized industrial foods dominate. At the heart of these traditions lies the understanding that stable preservation methods cannot be improvised overnight. Patience and attentiveness are virtues. The process is ritualistic without ceremony, transforming raw meat into a long-lasting resource. By treating meat as a valuable commodity that must stand the test of time, the Amish reinforce cultural bonds and maintain a culinary identity rooted in resilience and historical continuity. Number 2. Selecting cuts, animal breeds, and preparing the meat. The initial step in achieving multi-decade preservation is careful selection of the meat itself, starting at the farm level. Amish farmers often raise heritage livestock breeds known for dense muscle fibers, balanced fat distribution, and robust health. These animals grow more slowly than commercial breeds, grazing on nutrient-rich pastures that yield a flesh ideally suited for preservation. Such slower growth often results in firmer textures and more complex natural flavors, essential traits when meat must hold its integrity for 20 years or more. The choice of cut also matters greatly. Large muscle groups from the hindquarters of pigs or cattle are prime candidates, as these sections contain fewer connective tissues that might degrade unpredictably over long periods. Pork shoulders, hams, and beef rounds commonly feature in Amish curing. Before slaughter, animals are kept calm, ensuring minimal stress hormones that could affect flavor or texture. Post-slaughter, the carcass is allowed to rest at stable temperatures. The meat is expertly butchered with razor-sharp knives, removing any bruised areas or surface contaminants that could compromise longevity. Precision matters. Even small pockets of trapped moisture or suboptimal trimming can introduce points of vulnerability over time. Fat levels are moderated. Too much exterior fat might oxidize, while too lean a piece can dry out excessively. Amish butchers trim visible membranes or sinews, achieving a uniform thickness that promotes even salt penetration. They avoid injecting brines or using synthetic tenderizers, preferring to rely solely on salt's innate properties. Before salting, some families let meat rest in cool ambient conditions, allowing initial moisture levels to stabilize. This subtle pre-salting phase sets the stage for a more predictable curing process. Tools must be immaculate, often washed with hot water and dried thoroughly. The butchering area is meticulously cleaned to avoid cross-contamination. Cuts are chosen not only for their culinary potential, but for their capacity to endure extensive transformation. By beginning with superior raw materials, the Amish ensure a strong foundation. Each piece starts as a carefully curated canvas, ready to interact with salt and thyme to become a stable, flavor-intensified resource awaiting future meals. Number 3, understanding the salt's role and microbial ecosystem. Pure salt stands at the center of this process. To the Amish, salt isn't just a seasoning, it's the prime agent of preservation. They select coarse, additive-free salts, often obtained through trusted suppliers or occasionally traded within their community. Such salts lack anti-caking agents, iodine, or flow enhancers common in grocery varieties. These impurities could distort the delicate microbial balance needed for safe long-term curing. When salt contacts meat, it initiates a multi-step biochemical interplay. First, it draws out moisture at a controlled rate, lowering the water activity level and thereby making the environment hostile to harmful bacteria. This dehydration effect creates a stable matrix where beneficial microbes can thrive while spoilage pathogens struggle to survive. Over extended periods, certain benign bacteria and molds establish themselves, producing mild acidic compounds that further stabilize the product. This microbial succession is akin to what happens in aged cheeses or fermented vegetables. The Amish have no formal microbiology training, but through empirical observation and ancestral knowledge, they understand the importance of maintaining conditions that favor these friendly organisms. They know that if salt is too fine or contains additives, it might dissolve unevenly or introduce chemical imbalances. If too coarse, penetration could be patchy. By choosing the right salt particle size and purity, they ensure the slow, steady removal of moisture without violent osmotic shocks. This careful calibration of salt and environment fosters a stable ecosystem within the meat's fibers. The friendly microbes help develop nuanced flavors over years, not just weeks. These subtle, tangy, nutty, or even slightly sweet undertones emerge as proteins and fats break down into more aromatic compounds. Properly salted meat eventually becomes shelf-stable at ambient temperatures that would swiftly ruin fresh cuts. The reliance on natural microbial processes, guided solely by salt and stable conditions, exemplifies a method resilient to infrastructure failures or technological collapse. This timeless synergy between salt and microbes forms the biological scaffolding upon which the entire preservation system rests. By maintaining these invisible alliances, the Amish produce meat that not only endures, but improves in taste as decades pass. Number 4, seasonal adjustments, temperature control, and humidity management. True long-term meat preservation hinges on environmental mastery. While climate control devices are shunned, Amish communities cleverly exploit natural seasonal rhythms. Winters provide naturally lower temperatures that slow bacterial activity during the initial curing stages. Thick-walled cellars or specially designed outbuildings built partially below ground create stable microclimates. Stone, earth and wood construction materials help moderate temperature swings, ensuring the environment remains cool even during summer. Humidity is another critical factor. If the air is too dry, the exterior can form a hardened crust that traps moisture inside, risking internal spoilage. If too humid, unwanted molds or bacteria can flourish. The Amish solve this by careful ventilation. Simple adjustable vents or wooden shutters allow them to fine-tune airflow. Some communities hang damp cloths or add shallow pans of clean water if the air grows too arid. Conversely, if humidity is excessive, they may improve ventilation or rearrange meat pieces to enhance circulation. The location of the curing area often reflects deep local knowledge. In regions with warmer climates, Amish families might utilize naturally cooler spots near underground springs. In colder zones, timing the initial salting to coincide with stable winter conditions reduces guesswork. Some rely on thick layers of insulating straw or sawdust to maintain steady temperatures in ice houses that store large blocks of ice harvested from ponds in winter. Over time, these ice blocks slowly melt, providing a gentle cooling effect through the warmer months. Such resourcefulness means they aren't tethered to modern power grids. They simply use what nature provides. Each year, minor adjustments occur. If a particular season is unusually wet or warm, the community reacts by altering drying times, rotating pieces more frequently, or adding an extra layer of salt at certain intervals. These micro-adaptations ensure consistent results. Seasonal cues and environmental adaptations have become second nature. This responsiveness allows the method to remain stable even as weather patterns shift over time. Through patient observation and cumulative wisdom, the Amish transform unpredictable outdoor conditions into stable, reliable curing environments, conducive to multi-decade meat preservation. Number 5. Layering, container choices, and long-term packaging. After salting, the meat must settle into a secure environment for its lengthy maturation. Amish families often pack cuts into large, food-safe containers made of ceramic crocks, untreated hardwood barrels, or inert metal tubs. The chosen vessel must be scrupulously cleaned to avoid introducing contaminants. Before the meat goes in, some sprinkle a layer of coarse salt at the bottom. The pieces are then layered in carefully, with more salt between each tier. This stratification ensures even distribution, preventing hot spots where moisture might linger. For larger cuts that will remain in contact with formed brine, balance is key. The Amish periodically inspect the containers, draining off excess fluid if necessary, or adding more salt if conditions seem off. Each container is placed in the chosen curing area and left relatively undisturbed, though not ignored. The Amish understand that early intervention can correct minor issues. If one layer appears overly moist, they might rotate pieces or add more salt. As months turn to years, these salt-packed containers provide a protective cocoon. Eventually, after an extended curing phase, the meat may be removed from these containers, rinsed to remove surface salt, thoroughly dried, and hung. Hanging allows further moisture evaporation and flavor concentration. At this stage, packaging might also involve natural cloth sacks dipped in a salty brine and dried to create a breathable wrapping material. Such fabric coverings deter insects and dust without trapping moisture. Over decades, the packaging might gain a patina of age. A hardened outer rind forms naturally on the meat surface. This rind acts as a natural seal, defending the underlying interior from external threats. Amish storerooms or pantries serve as the final resting place for these well-aged cuts. Some are suspended from wooden beams, spaced so that air circulates freely around each piece. Others remain in special cabinets that maintain darkness and steady conditions. No plastics or synthetics are required. Through these careful packaging strategies, layering in salt, controlled container use, cloth coverings, and proper hanging, the meat transforms into a resilient, shelf-stable product that can be tapped as needed even decades later. Number 6. Flavor evolution, culinary applications, and nutritional aspects. Over time, the curing process doesn't merely preserve meat, it metamorphoses it. Initially, the taste might be one-dimensional, dominated by the presence of salt. But as years pass, complex flavor profiles emerge. The long interaction between proteins, fats, and friendly microbes gradually refines the meat's character. Nutty, savory, slightly fermented notes appear, akin to well-aged cheeses or old-world charcuterie. The Amish appreciate these subtleties and know how to integrate the preserved meat into their cuisine. Rather than consuming large chunks outright, they slice thin pieces and gently heat them in cast-iron pans to release fragrant aromas. These thin slivers pair well with hearty breads, root vegetables, and home-churned butter. In soups, stews, or bean dishes, even a small amount of this preserved meat imparts depth and body, elevating simple fare into robust, nourishing meals. Nutritionally, these meats retain proteins, minerals, and essential nutrients, though some vitamin content may diminish over such long periods. Still, in a community focused on balanced diets sourced largely from their own farms, this protein-rich, shelf-stable food source can be a vital fallback. In times of scarcity, crop failures, long winters, or unexpected hardships, this meat becomes a culinary lifeline. Its intense flavor means that very little is needed to enrich other ingredients. With controlled salt intake, soaking pieces briefly in fresh water can adjust salinity levels. Families can enjoy a product that is both a practical pantry staple and a gastronomic delight. While modern consumers might reach for canned goods or freeze-dried packages, Amish long-preserved meat requires no specialized machinery, no complex supply chains, and no vacuum-sealed plastic. Its longevity stands as a testament to the idea that sophisticated flavor and extended shelf life need not be at odds. By understanding how to cook with these enduring provisions, Amish cooks celebrate a tradition that spans centuries, connecting them to ancestral tables, robust flavors, and a proven means of sustaining families without mechanical refrigeration or synthetic preservatives. Each bite is a reminder that genuine depth of taste often arises from patience, simplicity, and time-honored methods rather than technological novelty. Number 7. Maintenance, inspections, and correcting issues over time. Even with careful preparation, the Amish know that vigilance is essential. Over decades, subtle environmental changes could introduce complications. Perhaps an unexpected stretch of damp weather encourages superficial mold growth on the exterior surfaces. While certain molds are beneficial, any strange or fuzzy patches that appear suspect prompt immediate action. The Amish trim away questionable areas, then adjust airflow or reposition the meat to discourage further growth. They might wipe surfaces with a cloth lightly moistened in salt water. Their response is proactive yet measured, guided by the principle that small corrections prevent major losses. Rodents and insects present another challenge. To prevent infestations, storage areas are inspected regularly. Cats, natural predators, help keep rodents at bay. Wooden beams and rafters are checked for integrity. If flies become bothersome, simple cloth screens or herbal sachets with aromatic leaves, bay, rosemary, or mint are employed as repellents. Cleanliness and orderliness minimize risks. Light exposure can cause discoloration or off flavors, so storerooms remain dim or dark. If a sudden temperature fluctuation occurs, perhaps a particularly hot summer, families might shift some cuts deeper into a cellar or temporarily reduce ambient moisture by introducing mild airflow. Should a piece appear overly dry or excessively salty after many years, A controlled soak restores balance. This maintenance ensures that even after 15 or 20 years, the meat remains appealing and safe. Tasting small samples periodically allows families to track flavor development. They note evolving flavors, textures, and aromas, ensuring that stored meat remains a welcome addition to meals. Such periodic tastings also reaffirm whether any adjustments are needed. Tools used for trimming or testing are kept sterile, as introducing foreign bacteria at this late stage would be disastrous. The preservation is a dynamic system, not a static artifact. By maintaining awareness, practicing routine inspections, and applying minor interventions, the Amish extend the viability of their preserved meats, safeguarding this invaluable food resource long past the point where most modern methods would falter. This unwavering commitment to stewardship ensures that each piece can fulfill its intended purpose, whether it's enjoyed next month or in 2 decades. Number 8, intergenerational knowledge transfer and modern curiosity. The longevity of these methods rests not on written recipes alone, but on memory, mentorship, and shared experience. Young Amish learn by assisting their elders, feeling how salt should adhere to the meat, observing what a perfect curing environment smells like, and understanding the texture of properly aged cuts. Grandparents recount stories of past winters when preserved meat sustained entire households through shortages. These narratives reinforce the method's relevance, embedding it in the community's identity. This knowledge isn't static. As younger generations become curious about scientific explanations, elders incorporate accessible reasoning. They explain how salt controls bacteria, why certain containers work best, or how seasonal humidity changes influence outcomes. This blend of empirical tradition and rudimentary science ensures that the method evolves while remaining anchored in fundamental principles. Outside observers, researchers, culinary enthusiasts, off-grid homesteaders have begun to look more closely at Amish preservation. Documentaries highlight their off-grid lifestyle and the remarkable longevity of their provisions. Food historians study how these techniques mirror ancient practices from cultures worldwide. Some individuals attempt to replicate the method at home, seeking to reduce reliance on refrigeration. Yet, no matter how much external interest grows, the Amish maintain a quiet confidence in their system, unbothered by trends or external validation. For them, the practice is practical, grounded, and woven into daily life rather than commercialized spectacle. The technique's renewed popularity among certain off-grid communities and sustainability advocates speaks to broader concerns. As power outages, supply chain disruptions, or economic uncertainties plague modern food systems, old-fashioned salt curing emerges as a viable solution. The Amish remain a living link to a time when people couldn't assume continuous refrigeration. Their consistent success in preserving meat for 20 years or more, using nothing but salt and environmental management, stands as a powerful example that human ingenuity doesn't always require advanced machinery. It can arise from careful observation, cultural continuity, and deep respect for the rhythms of nature. This legacy lives on, transmitted from hand to hand and generation to generation,